Welcome to TV, Tennessee Valley Church, and welcome to our home. How did the Jesus movement grow from one church in Jerusalem 2,000 years ago to 1/3 of the world's population today? It has a lot to do with the second church in history, the church in Antioch. Compared to the first church in history in Jerusalem, the church in Antioch was a new kind of church, doing new kinds of things and reaching new kinds of people. At its core, Antioch was outwardly focused from the get-go. They were still a young church, for example, when they sent out their two most effective leaders, Barnabas and Paul, to the world beyond. Antioch was born of a missionary spirit, and that missionary spirit propelled them beyond themselves into the world. If we're going to emulate or copy the church in Antioch, then churches must be on mission, outwardly focused, passionate about those who are in need and those who are far from God. An outward focus is the best solution to conflict. It's been a tough 28 months since March of 2020. Churches have been divided over masks, vaccines, do we close or not close, politics, and race. I said last week that it's time to pull back together, to shake hands again, hug necks again, forgive again, and move forward again. And I have a great suggestion as to how we can do that. Let's focus on needs and people beyond ourselves. My friend Bill Wilson, a church consultant, was working with a church on discerning their mission and how conflict gets in the way of mission. A man in the church spoke up. Bill, he said, I think I know what you're getting at. It's like my hound dogs. When I keep them all pinned up, they gnaw on each other's ears, something fierce. But when I let them out and they get on the scent of a deer, they don't bother one another at all. I think that man said, I think that's what's wrong with our church. We've lost the scent of what we're supposed to be doing. Inwardly focused churches tend to, gnaw on each other's ears. But when we get beyond ourselves, when our focus is on our world and our part in God's mission to the world, when we're out there on the hunt, if you will, then good fellowship comes a lot more naturally. Furthermore, an outward focus is critical because Ephesians 2:12 speaks of those who are separated from Christ as, quoting now, without hope and without God in the world. That reflects the words of Jesus himself in John 14, verse 6. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except by me. Now, I want to affirm again what I've said before, that I'm not in charge of who's in and who's out in God's eyes. And yet I do believe Jesus matters, eternally matters. And if we believe that, then we can do no less than tell His story and echo His invitation for others to follow Him. But our mission is not centered exclusively on the eternal destiny of people's souls. Jesus was obviously interested in the whole person, and that is our mission. That means churches, when we are at our best, are helping people know where their next meal is coming from, advocating for the fair treatment of all people, regardless of the hue of their skin or the accent of their tongue, teaching people job skills, offering real help to people with addictions, visiting the sick and the lonely, loving and serving our city. Churches are at our best when we are beyond ourselves doing ministry to the emotional, physical, and spiritual needs of people. Churches are at our best when we're overwhelmed by God's love for us and propelled by that love toward people beyond our walls. But how? How do we reach beyond ourselves? Well, at First Baptist Church of Huntsville, today, July the 31st, we're going to talk about fresh expressions of church, small, simple forms of church among networks of people highly unlikely to walk into any church's doors. We've started a number of them around town and hope for more. And we're going to talk about a couple of new initiatives. We're going to talk about placing people in apartments around us, people who will develop relationships, plan social events, and look for ways to love their neighbors in meaningful ways. We're going to talk about possibly funding a missionary out of our missions budget. What about your church, if you have one? If you're part of a church, would you begin to prayerfully consider some creative ways to reach out beyond your walls? Help your church be creative. Our world is changing so dramatically that churches no longer have the prominence and influence we used to have. So we've got to be creative. Which brings me to what I believe is a fascinating story. We've all been brokenhearted over Russia's unprovoked, unjustified attack on Ukraine. On March 14, just 4 months ago, a Russian news editor walked onto the set of her own news broadcast holding a sign saying, "No war." And in Russian, the sign said, "Don't believe the propaganda. They're lying to you here." She was promptly arrested and sent to prison, which reminds me of another Ukrainian story. You might remember the name Viktor Yushchenko. He was the political reformer who ran in 2004 against the entrenched communist leader of Ukraine. Yushchenko was threatened and then poisoned. You might remember how he was disfigured by dioxin poisoning. On November 25, 2004, the day of the election, exit polls showed Yushchenko clearly in the lead. But when the communist government-controlled newscast hit the air that evening, they declared that Yushchenko had been defeated and the communist leader was re-elected. It was a lie. And there was a translator for the deaf in a box in the lower right-hand corner of the TV screen. The lady who was doing the sign language for the broadcast, Natalia Dimitruk, realized what she was hearing in the newsroom was that reports on the election results were a sham. Yushchenko, she knew, had won. So she started signing the truth. "Don't believe what the authorities say," she signed. "They're lying. Yushchenko is our president." Because the folks running the television station didn't understand sign language, they didn't realize what the courageous signer, that lady, was doing. But the deaf Ukrainians watching that newscast got the message. They began to tell their friends about the attempted political fraud. Soon, Ukrainians turned out in great numbers, and the capital city of Kyiv was overrun with protesters. The government consented to new elections, and Yushchenko was finally declared the rightful winner. Philip Yancey compared Natalia Dimitruk, that lady signing the truth in that little insert on the bottom right corner of the screen, to the church. The church, you see, no longer has the main screen in our culture. Now we have just a little square in the corner of the screen. So we have to be creative. Like Mrs. Dimitruk, churches now have to find creative ways to get the message out. When I come back in a few minutes, I'm going to talk about something really important, an opportunity for you to use TV Church in an effort to creatively reach out beyond the walls of local churches.
Every table is an altar. Every breath is a gift from you. Every moment is a treasure. Every day is a kiss from you. And every table is an altar. Every breath is a gift from you. Every moment is a treasure. Every day is a kiss from you. So let our hearts be awake, be awake. Let our hearts be awake, be awake. So let our Every stranger has a story. Every story's being told by you. We're all children on a journey. Jesus, only you can lead us through. So let our hearts be awake, and let our hearts be awake, and break the bread, pour the wine, and let our hearts come alive in your presence, in your presence. And let our fear fall away, let our faith rise today in your presence, in your presence, Jesus. We will shout your name, King of glory. We will stand and sing, you are holy. We will pour out praise, you are worthy of our lives, now and forever. We will shout your name, King of glory. We will stand and sing, you are holy. We will pour out praise, you are worthy of our lives, now and forever. Every stranger has a story, and every story's being told by you. We're all children on a journey. Jesus, only you can lead us through.
We're talking about creative ways of extending the church. And we're shooting TV Church in my home today for a reason. Here's our idea and our request to you. Would you consider hosting a group of friends in your home to watch TV Church together starting 2 weeks from today? You could serve snacks or have people bring elements of a meal to eat together. You could gather and watch live at 10 on Sundays here on Way TV, or you could record it on TV and watch it together anytime. You could watch together from your computer at tvchurch.online anytime. You don't have to be some kind of expert. You just need to like people. And on top of that, you can invite people you like. People you like who are not part of a church family. We at TV Church would provide you suggested discussion questions. So you could watch together, discuss what you've seen, and then maybe eat together. Or you could snack as you watch. There will be no obligation to First Baptist Church of Huntsville. We produce TV Church, but you don't have to be part of us to host this in your home. This is merely an effort to take the church with a capital C to where the people are. You could be part of someone's significant, holistic, eternal transformation right there in your home. Would you be willing to consider being a host starting Sunday, August 14, 2 weeks from today? Email me at travis@fbchsv.org. I'll get you on the email list to receive discussion questions for the week leading up to Sunday, August 14. 2 weeks from today, you could be hosting a group. Would you consider that? Gracie says you can even bring your pets.
The pandemic was awful, but there were things that were born out of the pandemic that have turned out to be really good. And during that time when we were not meeting together at church, we were putting together a broadcast every week, and we were trying to make it something that felt a little more personable than just watching someone up on a stage. You know, once we started coming back in person, we realized that we were reaching folks who had not had the opportunity to engage in something like that before. And so we became very intentional about putting together a worship opportunity for folks wherever they might be. So maybe that's some weeks that's people who are members of our church and they're on vacation, but they want to tune in and see what's going on. I have family members and friends around the country who tune in to watch TV Church. So TV Church meets people where they are, and it's an opportunity to not just view worship, but to engage in it from the comfort of one's own home.
You know, I'm a big believer in church being about the gathering of people. You know, one of the things I tell people when we look at eternity or when we look at heaven, we always see one of two things. It's either the people of God gathering at the throne of God to worship Him, or it's the people of God gathered at the table of God to fellowship together, to eat together. And so for me, that's what church is all about. So as for TV Church and where it might go, and what my thought was when we got it started was that eventually it could serve that purpose. You know, the early church, they met originally in synagogues, they met in buildings, and then, you know, they started getting persecuted, and so out of necessity, they began to meet in homes. And I kind of saw TV Church the same way. We didn't get persecuted, but there was a pandemic. And so, you know, necessity kind of breeds innovation, and that's kind of how I saw TV Church working, was eventually it would lead to people gathering their friends together, eating brunch or eating a meal over watching TV Church and having a Bible study together, and it being its own house church that's tethered to the ministries of First Baptist.
What I hope people gain out of the music portion is exactly what I hope people gain out of the music portion of the services that I lead. And anytime that I play music, it's all worship to God, but at the end of the day, I want people to reflect Jesus just a little bit better in their lives. I want them to love their families better. I want them to love the Lord better. I want them to love their neighbors better. That music and the message of the music behind it, if it draws them closer to Jesus so they can reflect Him better, I think that's the goal.
I hope that TV Church gives you an opportunity to sit together as a family and participate in worship, to sing along with the music, to listen to what Travis has to say and apply it to your lives, to talk about it as a family, maybe around lunch after you've viewed it. And I hope that it transforms parents so that they can be the spiritual leaders in their homes, and it transforms their kids, whether they're young or they're teenagers, but that everyone feels like the gospel of Jesus Christ is accessible, and that's really what TV Church is all about.
One of the most interesting stories to me of recent entertainment trends has to do with Blockbuster and Netflix. Now, some of you are too young to remember Blockbuster, and that's kind of my point. Observers have said that Blockbuster misunderstood its mission. Its mission, the folks at Blockbuster apparently thought, was to rent tapes of movies and collect late fees. Netflix, however, understood that the real mission was actually home entertainment. Videos were just a delivery system, and Netflix had an idea for a better delivery system. However, in the year 2000, Netflix was struggling financially. So, the leaders of Netflix approached Blockbuster. In September 2000, the three Netflix executives offered to sell their company to Blockbuster for $50 million, a mere fraction of what Blockbuster had in the bank. But the CEO of Blockbuster nearly laughed out loud. He said the idea of online business was overrated. He said online business was not sustainable and never would make money. Turned down by Blockbuster, the folks at Netflix decided to give it all they had, and they succeeded wildly. Again, Blockbuster thought their mission was renting tapes of movies. In 2010, 10 years after Netflix's offer, Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy. Netflix understood that their mission was providing home entertainment, and in that same year, 2010, they hit 20 million customers and expanded overseas. Interestingly, now Netflix is struggling a bit, which simply proves that the world is changing so rapidly now, even the cutting edge folks are having a hard time keeping up. But my point is this: we have to know our mission, what it is and what it is not. A church's mission is not merely the attraction of people to a building. Our mission is the Great Commission to go into all the world, which means from Florence, Italy to Florence, Alabama, from Blossomwood to Butler Terrace, from your street to the information highway. The British Archbishop in the early 1900s, William Temple, said, "The church is the only cooperative society in the world that exists for the benefit of its non-members." Would you help your church as it turns its focus outward, creatively? Someone might just be saved significantly, holistically, eternally transformed.
How great this love, oh, it's moving all my mountains. This perfect love, it's casting out my fear. How great this love, oh, it welcomes me like family. And anywhere I go, it meets me there. 'Cause He is good, He is God. What I earn, it's not what I got. He is just, yet oh so kind. What I deserve, it's not what I find. What more could I say about my God's love? How great this love, oh, it's faithful through my failure. This trusted love is with me till the end. How great this love, oh, it's closer than a brother. This is love, He died so I could live. He is good, He is God. What I earn, it's not what I got. He is just, yet oh so kind. What I deserve, it's not what I find. What more could I say about it? My God is love. He is love. I know my God is love. I know my God is love. This is enough to know my God is love. I know my God is love. I know my God is love. This is enough to know my God is love. I know my God is love. I know my God is love. This is enough to know my God is love. I know my God is love. I know my God is love. This is enough to know my God is love. He is good. He is God. What I earn, it's not what I got. He is just, yet also kind. What I deserve, it's not what I find. What more could I say about my God's love? What more could I say about my God, His love? What more could I say about my God, His love?
You might be feeling a need or maybe even a call from God to be part of our church family in a more tangible way. If you're not able to join us physically here at 600 Governors Drive, whether because of distance, mobility, schedule, or some other reason, you still can be a member of First Baptist Huntsville. Let me send you information on what that would mean, what you could expect from your church, and what your church would expect from you. Email me at travis@fbchsv.org. Let me know of your desire for membership, and I'll help you get started. Join hands with us as we attempt to join hands with God Himself in His mission to the world.